The Marvel Rivals Season 2 changes just dropped, and there are a ton of crazy changes to many of your favorite heroes, including buffs, nerfs, reworks to abilities, and so much more. So we're going to talk about exactly what these changes are, and exactly how they're going to affect these characters and the meta going forward. But if you enjoy the content, do me a huge solid and smash that like and subscribe, and check out the Discord right now down below. If you're looking for a community, some great duo partners, and some people to joke and talk about Marvel Rivals with, then look no further down below, and let's get into it. Now, first off, let's talk about the Vanguards, and Captain America is going to get quite a big change. Steve will undergo some adjustments to his survivability, leading to a slight decrease in his overall resilience, reduce base health from 675 to 650, and reduce the shield value of Living Legend from 400 to 350. Now, he's also losing his synergy with Thor and Storm. That's going to be deleted, but he's going to gain a new synergy in one with Bucky, which we'll talk about a bit later. Now, because he is going to be a new team-up anchor, he's going to get a HP increase of 100 and a 5% boost in damage output. So overall, Captain America is going to be actually quite a bit stronger than he was before. Notably, that damage increase, 5%, might not seem like a lot, but it really does add up on a character that is normally just fighting with pillows. This is going to be a big deal, and we're going to see a lot more Captain America play coming in Season 2. The next up is Dr. Strange. The Sorcerer Supreme will see a reduction in his offensive capabilities, limiting his battlefield control, decrease daggers of Denok damage projectile 18 to 16, and reduce the Maelstrom of Madness conversion ratio of dark magic to damage from 1.3 to 1.2. Now, overall, this seems like a pretty big nerf to Dr. Strange's damage, but keep in mind, due to the new anchored team-up bonus with Scarlet Witch, he's going to get a 100 health increase, making him more survivable, and the new Scarlet Witch team-up is really freaking cool. We'll showcase it more later. Now, Hulk the Green Goliath will boost enhanced maneuverability and improve survivability upon entering combat. Increase base movement speed from 600 to 650. Reduce cooldown time for Indestructible Guard from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. And decrease minimum charge time from Incredible Leap from 0.7 seconds to 0.5 seconds. So being faster overall, having a smaller of a cooldown on one of his most powerful abilities, and making it so that he can jump more. Hulk is going to be so much more powerful, more decisions, faster decisions, more power overall. Not to mention, he's getting a new synergy with Namor, which once again, we'll talk about later at the end. We talk about all the changes to the new synergies. Hulk is going to be crazy this season, in my opinion. Next up is Magneto. The Master of Magnetism will experience a slight decrease in the frequency of his ultimate ability, increase energy cost for Meteor M, his ultimate, from 3100 to 3400. Now, while Magneto did get his ultimate quite a bit faster after they increased his damage, and I think this is actually relative to that because they increased his damage previously and then he got faster ultimates, I still don't know if I love this change due to the simple fact that Magneto is still being outpaced with his ultimate in comparison to things like Starlord, in comparison to things like Cloak and Dagger ultimate. So he'll be a tempo behind those characters when using his ultimate. That being said, I do think the ultimate's very strong and flexible, and Magneto is very, very good. And I don't expect this is going to massively decrease how strong he is as one of the best tanks in the game right now, one of the best characters in the game right now. Now, for Peni Parker, they will receive enhancements to her primary attack damage efficiency and a boost to her survivability and combat capabilities. The Cyber Web Cluster now has a chance to crit, reduce movement speed penalty while firing Cyber Web Cluster from 40% to 20%. That is actually insane and massively increases not only the skill ceiling of this, but also the damage output. That's just absurd. And then increased base health from 650 to 750. Now, these are massive changes to Peni Parker and make her a lot stronger. And I think a lot of people have been asking for Peni changes. A lot of people will be happy of Peni changes. And yeah, I will say though, that be careful what you ask for. I think a lot of people might get really mad at some Peni mains in a couple of weeks, but you know, for now, have fun, farm some people. This character's going to be really good. Now, the Thing, the ever-loving blue-eyed Thing, will see a slight reduction in his damage reduction effect, decrease embattled leap damage reduction for himself and teammates from 30% to 25%. I'm not gonna lie, this is a much smaller nerf than I think the Thing deserves. Coming from an Eternity Thing main, I'm happy. I'm gonna keep abusing this character. Let's freaking go! Let's go. Anyways, Thor, the mighty Thor will receive an increase in survivability, increase base health from 525 to 600, increase base movement speed from 600 to 650. this is nice. These are nice changes. I don't think it's gonna make or break the character, but honestly, this character has felt too squishy lately, and I think that a lot of people are gonna like these changes overall to Thor. It's gonna make him feel more fluid, more survivable, and overall is gonna be a nice change. Now we're going to move on to the duelist, and the first duelist is Black Widow. Natasha is receiving optimizations to her shooting experience, added a new effect where Black Widow can directly shoot after releasing the second kick of Edge Dancer and after using Electroplasmic Explosion, which is her ultimate ability. This sets up a lot more combos after you're kicking and just finishing off a target before they can escape, or combos where you're ulting and instantly shooting again. So I really do think that this is going to increase her overall effectiveness without making her something super dominant, but the good Black Widow players that are already seeing value with her are going to just be that much more efficient, lethal, and consistent. Next up is Hawkeye. So they're going to be improving Clint's mobility while drawing his bow, enhancing his combat capabilities, and increasing the threat of his ultimate ability. Now, reduce the slow effect while charging the bow from 30% to 20%. Increase both instances of damage for Hypersonic Arrow from 50 to 55. And decrease the energy cost of his ultimate Hunter's Sight from 3700 to 3100. And improve the draw speed of the bow from 1.35 times to 1.5 times. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, these buffs are kind of crazy, especially the fact that he's not going to be as slowed when he's knocking his bow. That's a really big deal. The Hypersonic Arrow damage increase is a nice change, but really, like, this character in the right hands is already very, very strong, and I think this just makes the character that much stronger. They keep slowly buffing this character, and I would put your eye on Hawkeye, because an uncontested Hawkeye is crazy and very, very strong, and this is only going to make him better. Now, next up is Hela. The Goddess of Death will see a reduction in mobility while slightly enhancing her offensive power. Increase cooldown for Astral Flock from 12 seconds to 15 seconds. Increase spell field damage of Piercing Knight from 30 to 35. And decrease cooldown time for Soul Drainer from 12 seconds to 10. Now, the increase in spellfield damage of Piercing Knight isn't the biggest deal. That's her alternate fire, and it's good, but it's not the strongest part of her kit. I think the big change here is the increase in cooldown of the movement, but the decrease in cooldown from the actual stun. The stun is really freaking powerful, and having that on a lesser cooldown gives you more playmaking opportunities and more times where you can shut down certain abilities, ultimates, or just shut down a diver or whatever. But that increased cooldown for the flight means that there are going to be more moments where you can actually dive a Hela, force her to run away, and then re-dive her before she gets it back. I do think that this also means that she's a lot weaker to dive than she was before. Just that extra 3 seconds can really add up to be a lot. But it is interesting why they did these changes, because I also think that Soul Drainer being on a less cooldown makes her stronger against the same things that the movement cooldown does. So it's like kind of buffing and nerfing her in ways that I think kind of neutralize each other, so to speak. So we'll actually have to see how this all plays out. I think Hela's still going to be very, very strong, but we'll have to see how everything plays out when the dust settles. Next up is Human Torch. Johnny's attack, feedback, and survivability are being improved to enhance his impact across various combat scenarios. Reduce attack interval for Fire Cluster from 0.6 seconds to 0.5 seconds. The launch timing of the primary attack projectile has been advanced. So this is just going to be way more reliable to hit, and it's just going to feel more reliable, and you're going to be able to shoot more quickly. And then increase the cooldown for Flaming Meteor from 12 seconds to 15 seconds, but add a new effect after releasing Flaming Meteor. Immediately gain 75 bonus health, which will start to fall off 3 seconds later at a rate of 30 per second. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this demanded a massive increase in the cooldown from 12 to 15, because this character was not super strong already. He had potential, but wasn't super strong. However, that 75 bonus health when you slam down is a massive deal. Think of it like the big bonus health that Storm gets after her ultimate that allows her to retreat to safety. When you slam down, you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position, right? And the fact that you get 75 bonus health means it's going to be a lot harder to kill you as you reposition back to safety. So I think that's actually a really nice change. I'm just not so sure about increasing the cooldown too. I think they could have kept the cooldown at 12 and it would have been a fine buff. Next is Iron Man. Iron Man is seeing improvements to his mid-range combat effectiveness. Slightly reduce Iron Man's hitbox size. New feature, gain 100 bonus health, activating Armor Overdrive or Gamma Overdrive that will start to fall off 15 seconds later at a rate of 30 per second. Now, this is another one of these changes that the, Human Torch got, and also, like, I think Iron Fist started off with. And it's a cool change because it means that when you pop it, you could be more proactive in that moment, and then you can retreat to more reactivity. This is a really cool change because it lets bursts of being really playmakey, really proactive happen in the middle of the fight, and you're less likely to die from it. Combine that with Iron Man's reduced hitbox size, and like, I really think that this is like the magic thing that's gonna make Iron Man really good. He's been better since the mid-season patch of last season, so I think he's gonna be actually really strong. Now for Iron Fist, Lin Lei will see an increase in his combat effectiveness against vanguards, a slight improvement to his mobility, and a slight reduction to his survivability when first entering the battlefield. Reduce the bonus max health gain from Harmony Recovery from 150 to 100, but slow the fall-off rate of that health from 25 per second to 15 per second. You're going to be able to fight a little bit longer and still maintain those benefits. You don't have to fight as quickly because it's going to fall off right away normally, not as much anymore. Lower the fixed damage of his primary from 10 to 9, but increase the percentage damage of the enemy's max health per strike from 1.7% to 2.1%. Holy shit, this character is going to do a crazy amount of damage towards freaking tanks. Like, insane amount of damage towards tanks. Decrease the cooldown from his kick from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. This is crazy. I think altogether, this is a huge buff to the character, a crazy nice package, making this character really farm tanks at an even higher rate, but still being really powerful against other characters as well. I think this is overall just going to be a buff to his damage, even with that reduction of the damage from 10 to 9. I think that increase in max HP is still good against most characters, and the decrease in kick cooldown is a really big deal as well. I think this is all just really good for the character. Next up is Mr. Fantastic. We're enhancing Reed's capabilities while making some balance adjustments to his ultimate energy charge rate, adding additional control ability, and optimizing the release experience of his ultimate ability. First, they're increasing his base health from 350 to 375, boost the damage of the stretch punch from 60 to 65, and from 75 to 80 while in the inflated state. Flexible elongation's new effect. Enemies within range now suffer a 35% slow effect. Reduce flexible elongation cooldown time from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. Reduce the elasticity gain from elastic strength, his passive, from 30 to 20, while the elasticity provided by stretch punch is increased from 5 to 8. After entering the inflated state, the bonus health provided to self has been reduced from 450 to 400. Now, the new feature is when Mr. Fantastic uses Brainiac Bounce, immediately gain bonus health equal to that gained when entering inflated state, so you no longer have to wait till you get big in order to pop the ultimate. And I know that these are a lot of changes, but all you need to know is that this character just got giga freaking buffed, like a crazy amount of buffs. HP buffs, damage buffs, extra cooldown slow effects now to enemies within range of the flexible elongation is crazy with a lesser cooldown. There's so much here, like so much. It's insane. If you were a reasonable Mr. Fantastic before, you are now a cracked Mr. Fantastic. I'm telling you, this character is going to be a menace. The next up is Moonknight. They said we're optimizing Mark's Moonblade projectile bounce feedback while improving maneuverability, ultimate ability, and survivability. So increased the Crescent Dart projectile speed from 120 meters per second to 150 meters per second. Crazy fast change, by the way. Moonblade new effect, gain 25 bonus health each enemy hit up to a max of 100. 3 seconds after the bonus health stops increasing, it will start the fall off of a rate of 20 per second. This means that alternate fire is actually crazy because it just makes you a lot more survivable, and if you're using it in a fighting matchup, you could just get a burst of HP out of nowhere. And I really do like this overall change to characters where in certain intervals they're going to get a burst of health, making them more survivable and harder to deal with. So I think that's actually really cool. Now they're also going to speed up the Moonlight Hook pull startup time after hit from 0.4 to 0.15 seconds. You're literally flying the second you throw it down. I think the cast time was too long anyways. It makes a lot of sense. I think that's a big deal. And then extend the duration of the Hand of Khonshu ultimate from 3.5 seconds to 4.5 seconds, and increase the number of towns generated during the period from 14 to 18. Additionally, the fall speed of the towns have been slightly enhanced. A new damage fall-off mechanic for the spell field has been added, beginning at 1.5 meters from the center and reaching a maximum reduction of 70% at 5 meters. So it does a lot more damage, but if you're not right in the center, it's gonna do less damage as you get closer to the edge. I think that these are all the changes that Moon Knight needed. Like, he's more lethal. His ultimate is more lethal in general. Now his primary is going to be more lethal than it was before. He's going to be more survivable. Like, Moon Knight was very weak at dueling other DPS. He's a lot better at doing that now by hitting them and gaining health or being able to hook away faster. These are all great changes to Moon Knight. He's going to be a lot stronger this next season. Scarlet Witch, we're reducing Wanda's survivability, but increasing her threat level against strategists and duelists while optimizing her ultimate ability release experience. Remove chaos control percentage damage while increasing fixed damage from 60 per second to 80 per second. Increased the burst projectile damage from 35 to 40 and spell field damage from 35 to 40. Increase the cooldown of the projection from 8 seconds to 10 seconds and reduce the phase state time from 2 seconds to 1.5. And then rework the slow effect of the reality erasure to start at 1.5 seconds instead of starting immediately, and with the linear increase to a 35% slow over 3.5 seconds. So this is a lot of different changes. For one, the character is going to be more lethal, but it's going to have less mobility. You know, less uptime with the phase state. It's going to happen faster, and it's going to be on a longer cooldown. So less mobility, more damage. And then the ultimate is going to be very lethal and very fast at the beginning, but then slow down. So at the very start of it, it's actually going to be really fast. It's going to be an overall buff to the ultimate by quite a bit. Now for Starlord, we're reducing Peter's damage output and the efficiency of his ultimate ability charge rate. Reduce blaster barrage damage from 80 per second to 75. Introduce a new damage follow-up mechanic starting at 4 meters and maxing out at 80% reduction at 8 meters. So his his circular ability is just going to do less, and it's going to have more of a fall off, and it's going to not generate him as fast. As you know, right now the meta is like Starlord going in, getting bubbled by Magneto, and using that ability to generate way too much ultimate, and now he can no longer do that to that extent. Now we got into Winter Soldier. A lot of people have been asking for Winter Soldier changes, and this is what they're doing. They are reducing his threat level against Vanguards and reducing the margin for error in his ultimate ability. So they're increasing the cooldown for his bionic hook from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. I think this is a really good change. There's more of a window for you to play around it. So if you bait it out successfully, you are free from it, and there's just going to be less overall hooks throughout the course of a game. And they're reducing the base damage of Kraken Impact, his ultimate, from 100 to 80, but lowering the culling threshold from 20 to a maximum of 15 health. So it's not going to insta-kill you when you're at 20%. You have to be at 15% or less, and it's going to do less base damage. So everything else about Bucky is the same. He's still getting shields with his abilities. He still has 275 base health. But with 12 seconds on his hook and a weaker ultimate overall, I do think that this is going to be a change that people are going to like, and it's maybe not the change you wanted, but Bucky is undoubtedly going to be weaker, and he was also removed from Ammo Overdrive, even if he did get a new team up, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The last up is Wolverine. What they're doing is they're tuning Logan's rage acquisition rate and slightly lowering his control intensity over enemies. Increase rage gained from Savage Claw hits from 7 to 10, while rage gained from Berserk Claw Strike has been decreased from 7 to 5. Reduce rage gain from Feral Leap from 20 to 10, and reduce Vicious Rampage from 20 to 15. However, rage gained from taking damage has been increased from 3 to 5. Reduce the time an enemy is knocked down after an impact from Last Stand from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. So people aren't getting, rooted for nearly as long post-ultimate. They have more time to respond, and in some cases, pop an ultimate as an example in response to it, or an ability, or whatever. And to be honest with you, it's hard to know what those rage changes are gonna mean. After a while, we'll know once we test the character fully. Now we've moved on to last but certainly not least, the strategist, and we're starting with Adam Warlock. Slightly reducing the frequency of Adam's abilities and adjusting the healing provided by his ultimate ability after reviving teammates. Increase the cooldown from Soul Bond from 30 seconds to 40 seconds. Karmic Revival, his ultimate ability, now restores 30% of a fallen ally's maximum health instead of a fixed 100 health. Now that Soul Bond nerf is a really big deal. 40 seconds is forever. You have to be very disciplined with how you're using it. And in addition to, the nerfs to Starlord, this is kind of nerfing the Res team up trio a lot more. And at just above 300 HP, that 30% is going to be better than 100, but underneath that, it's going to be worse. So for tanks, it's going to be better, and for squishies, it's going to be worse overall. Now, I really actually am excited about Adam Warlock nerfs. I think the trio res comp in high elo is way too powerful. For most players, though, y'all are not going to like this, and it's going to be frustrating, I understand. But hey, at least Adam Warlock is still just as lethal as ever. Now for Cloak and Dagger, they're optimizing the logic of this dynamic duo's ultimate ability. After activating Eternal Bond, the duration of the first 3 healing zones will no longer be calculated separately. Instead, they will remain active until the duration of the final healing zone ends, at which point all will be removed together. So, you know, they don't just slowly start to fall as, you know, as it progresses. This is actually a nice buff to the ultimate. I think it needed the buff, and I think this is a good change. Invisible Woman will be fine-tuning Susan's protective capabilities to create a more strategic gameplay experience, decrease the shield value of Guardian Shield from 300 to 250. I really do think Invisible Woman's very, very strong, and with some nerfs to some other supports, a tiny nerf to Guardian Shield I think is perfectly fine. For Loki, to balance Loki's influence in matches, we're making a small adjustment to the frequency of whether his key abilities, increase regenerative domain cooldown from 25 seconds to 30 seconds. I think this is the most powerful cooldown in the entire game, and as such, it makes sense that it's 30 seconds. I mean, we saw a 10-second nerf to Adam Warlock's ability, and this is only a 5-second, and I think this is actually more powerful than Soul Bond, even if Soul Bond is also like a top 3 ability in the game. Still, I think Loki was one of the best supports in the game, so it makes sense for him to get a small nerf. Next up is Mantis. To emphasize strategy over speed, we're modifying Mantis's health and buff mechanics. Reduce base health from 275 to 250. Effects of Healing Flower and Allied Inspiration can be stacked up to a maximum of 16 seconds. Now, it's kind of wild what this does. I know that the nerf to the health is a big deal, but being able to just stack like damage boost onto something, just someone, anyone, and then they just get to be buffed for 16 seconds even after you leave is crazy. This means that you can hypothetically just like stack damage on like 2 different people walking into a fight and then focus on other things, right? Like this really frees you up to focus on many more things. And I think it also increases the amount of people you can actually have with the damage buffs, because you can just like have one person 16, one person 16, another person 16, dink, apply another one. Like you can really go crazy with this. I am very interested in what top level Mantises do with this. The nerf to the health does suck, but I mean, that is just crazy. Like that's just a crazy buff to the core mechanic of Mantis. The last support is Rocket Racoon. His healing abilities will see some adjustments to enhance team survivability while balancing his mobility. Decrease the healing area of repair node from 70 per second to 50 per second, but add a new effect of one-time healing of 55 to allies that it hits. Oh, you actually gotta aim it now. Let's freaking go. Now, projectile speed reduction increased from 4.5 to 7, so it's faster. It's easier to hit and aim because of how fast it moves, and it's gonna pass through things faster, but that means it's gonna be like less AoE heals and more burst heals if you can aim. Now, the extended cooldown of Jetpack Dash from 6 seconds to 10, but reduced the dash distance from 10 to 8. So now you're not going to dash around nearly as much. Your mobility is kind of nerfed by quite a bit. You are more vulnerable, and you have to be more disciplined about using it, but you do burst heal a lot more. So like Racoon might be a replacement now for certain characters that, you know, provided a ton of burst heals on the front line. Characters like Cloak and Luna and even Invisible Woman. Now reduce your ultimate ability damage boost from 40% to 25%, but add a new effect during the ability duration. Linked allies will receive an additional 100 bonus health per second, capping at 150. After breaking the link, this bonus starts to fall off after 1 second at 75 per. Additionally, increase the energy cost from 3,700 to 4,000. Now, okay, this is kind of crazy because I think this really reduces the combo potential of the amplifier, but because you get a lot more HP, I'm not going to say you could use this as a defensive ult necessarily, but it really helps your team incentivize pushing and pressing with it, right? You get to have your team really want to go and really want to do damage, really want to get active. Everyone's going to have extra health. Everyone's going to have extra damage. Let's freaking go. I think this is crazy strong. And the identity of Rocket, I think, has gotten quite a bit changed from before. I really can see Rocket being really strong after these changes. and a really viable support that people are going to be asking for now and not mad about. This is really, really crazy changes, guys. Now, in a future video, I'll talk about all of the new team-up abilities, but just so you know, Dr. Strange and Scarlet Witch have one that gives her a new ability, Captain America and Winter Soldier have one that gives Winter Soldier a new ability, and Emma Frost, Psylocke, and Magneto have one that gives Magneto a new ability and Psylocke a new ability, while at the same time giving Emma Frost the Anchor 100 max HP increase. And the ammo overload with Rocket and Winter Soldier is removed. He only has it with Punisher now. Chilling Charisma with Luna and Namor is removed. And Dimensional Shortcut with Magic and Psylocke is removed from those two. Gamma Charge now has Namor instead. Metallic Cross, now Scarlet Witch and Magneto also got removed. The synergy between Thor, Cap, and Storm also got removed. We'll do a bigger deep dive and breakdown of all that in the future, but if you enjoyed the content, definitely smash the like and subscribe, and let me know down below what change you're most scared about and hyped about. And yeah, thank you so much for coming by, and see you next time.